Despite a solid earnings report, Palantir stock took a surprising dip. Let's dive into the details. Welcome back, guys. Let's take a look at Palantir Technologies today, who just released earnings. Now, they reported solid earnings, and I want to hear all of the details on that. But first, Palantir stock did rise about 8% before the earnings release. So what do you think drove that optimism initially?
Yeah, we were just talking before we started this video, and Palantir's had a history of coming in better than expected, and I think there were a lot of traders that were trying to get in front of that and bid up the stock before the earnings report so that they weren't caught on the wrong side of that if Palantir surprised to the upside.
Right, and then the results were just as expected. I mean, there wasn't a lot in it to drive the market even higher. We've got that big pullback now, but 10%, it seems big, but it's really just down to a key support level. I think the uptrend is still intact.
Yeah, so going into that, tell us more now about their performance, and which, if you guys would, share the details of why the stock reacted negatively despite solid earnings.
Well, I'll let Thomas talk about the stock price performance because he was just starting to talk about that when he finished up there. Mm-hmm. The earnings report itself was a really solid report for Palantir. Revenue and earnings came in higher on a year-over-year basis. Earnings were more in line with estimates. Revenue was above estimates, but both were higher on a year-over-year basis. They were GAAP profitable for the 5th consecutive quarter, and that's important because Palantir is trying to get included in the S&P 500. So this will be another way of trying to make that happen. Operating margins were up, customer count was up. Just overall, it was a solid report. I think what we were saying before we started taping was the earnings report became a trade for the traders, and they were banking on it either going one way or the other, and the report was great, but maybe not the home run they were looking for, and they sold off.
Imagine investing in the next big stock before it hits its peak. Our exclusive report, 7 stocks that could be bigger than Tesla, Nvidia, and Google, introduces you to the growth stocks set to skyrocket, offering unmatched returns for your investment. These aren't just any stocks, they're the carefully selected potential market leaders of tomorrow. Download this free report now to discover the next big superstars.
Right. I think the report was good too. I'm looking at the customer count, the client growth, commercial and government business all growing. Customer count up 42%. They call it remaining deal value, but that's up 75%. That's showing some momentum building in the backlog. Government strong at 16%, commercial up at 27%, double the government growth. So we got some good, strong growth metrics here. And just like we were talking about, the market was expecting strength. They bought into the market ahead of the report. The report was as expected, so no catalyst for rally. We get a sell-off. Sell-off looks big, but we're still in line with the trend. I would expect to see this stock put in some pretty good support at this level and prepare for another run higher.
So analysts still see Palantir as a golden buying opportunity. What's your guys' take on this? What side are you on with that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with where the analysts are going from a long-term standpoint. Dan Ives of Wedbush, he was the person that said Palantir is the Lionel Messi of AI. And before the earnings, he had reiterated his buy rating on the stock. He gave it an overweight rating with a $35 price target. He described the results yesterday as like you were just saying, Lacey, as a golden buying opportunity for investors. It's a lot of this has to do with their AIP platform and the boot camps that they're using to gain customer share right now.
Yeah, it's hard to use the analysts as a gauge for this stock because like we're getting some revisions, but not very many really for the report and for as much market attention is put on this stock. And even in their mix, we have the 2 raising price targets like after the report, but one is at hold and one's at reduce. All right. So still some negative sentiment in there. Market beta showing the consensus sentiment as reduce, which
Right.
is still kind of wacky given the company's growth and its trajectory. But then like Dan Ives, he's probably the most bullish person on
Right.
Wall Street. And he certainly sees upside in the stock. And I agree with that. I think eventually the analysts will get on board with it.
Mhm.
Maybe they won't. I don't know. But in
Right.
the end, that just means volatility. Right now, the trend is up. When the stock is down, it's usually a good time to buy it.
Okay, so Chris, you mentioned this in your article for Market Beat, but there are always misconceptions out there when it comes to investing. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. But what are the common misconceptions that you hear about investing in tech stocks like Palantir? And is there any advice that you would give to someone that's looking to invest in Palantir or even similar AI technology companies?
Well, I think what you're referring to, Lacey, is I was saying in my article that, Palantir's there are two clear tracks going on with Palantir right now. There's the track that the traders are on, and there's the track that investors are on, and long-term investors, excuse me. And this is a question where both sides can be right at the same time, even though it doesn't seem like it. If you're a long-term investor, there was nothing in this report that should steer you away from holding the stock, perhaps adding to it, especially if the stock were to drop any lower than it did in the pre-market. I haven't checked it since the market's been open, but I know it was down around 21 or so when the market opened. It was down like 11%. There's nothing here that should discourage you. The customer count's up. Again, the company is now profitable for 5 straight quarters, and it's not looking like that's going to end anytime soon. They reported slightly lower than expected full-year growth, but again, nothing that a long-term investor should be concerned about. On the other hand, if you're a trader, the stock is fundamentally overvalued. It just is. I mean, I don't even know what the PE is off the top of my head, but it's objectively overvalued. And traders are going to take advantage of that. They're going to take advantage of getting any profit they can when they want to take it. And so if you're a long-term investor, that's just a volatility that you're going to have to live with. That's the price of entry in a stock like Palantir. Both sides can be right, but I think if you're choosing to be a long-term investor, there's nothing here that should steer you away from doing that.
Yeah. I think the big caveat with tech stocks that we're talking about is when they're young and they're new, it's easy for the market to price in the total addressable market or the total growth outlook. And the reality is that today the company is still small. It still has to grow and build its a platform and its infrastructure to be able to support that growth. So it takes time. And so the market will start seeing this avenue towards growth and shoot up. And then the reality of the results will make it fall back down. But right now, the trajectory is positive. The company is growing. So all of these dips should turn out to be buy the dip opportunities for long-term investors.
Great. Well, great analysis today, guys. Thank you everyone for joining us as we unpacked Palantir's latest earnings report and explored their future potential. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And of course, stay tuned right here at MarketBeat for more insights on your favorite tech stocks. We'll talk soon.